You are nothing but dead weight." The words echoed across the stone courtyard of the Moonstone pack house, and Kara felt her hands tremble as she gripped the tray of empty goblets she had been collecting. Alpha Dante stood at the center of the gathering, his young face twisted with contempt as he addressed the semicircle of older wolves who had served his father for decades. "My father was too sentimental, too weak. He let this pack grow soft by keeping relics of the past when we should be building for the future." Kara pressed herself against the cold stone wall, trying to become invisible as she always did during pack assemblies. She had learned long ago that the daughter of a disgraced warrior had no place drawing attention to herself. But even as she tried to fade into the shadows, her eyes found him. Marcus, the silent sentinel. He stood at the far end of the line of veteran warriors, his weathered face showing no emotion as the young Alpha's tirade continued. His silver, streaked hair was pulled back, revealing the scars that marked his neck and jaw, remnants of battles fought before Dante had even been born. While the other veterans shifted uncomfortably or bristled with barely contained anger, Marcus remained perfectly still, his dark eyes fixed on something in the distance, as if the Alpha's words were nothing more than wind passing through trees. "The harvest moon gathering is meant to celebrate strength," Dante continued, his voice rising as he fed off the energy of his younger supporters who clustered behind him. His beta, a cruel-faced wolf named Vincent, smirked as he watched the older warriors. "But how can we celebrate strength when we are feeding and housing wolves who can barely shift anymore? When was the last time any of you even ran with the pack? When was the last time you contributed anything beyond stories of glory days that no one cares to hear?" Kara saw the muscles in Marcus's jaw tighten, the only indication that the words had landed. She knew that look. She had seen it in her own father's eyes before shame and despair had driven him to challenge an Alpha he could not defeat, leaving her orphaned and marked by his failure. The other servants continued moving through the crowd, refilling drinks and clearing plates. But Kara found herself frozen, unable to look away from the scene unfolding before her. There was something building in the air, a pressure that made her skin prickle and her pulse quicken. Marcus, Dante, turned his full attention to the silent sentinel now, and the courtyard fell into a hush so complete that Kara could hear the autumn wind rustling through the trees beyond the walls. "You especially, the great warrior who could not even protect his own mate. What use are you to this pack now? You have not spoken more than a handful of words in 20 years. You take up space in the barracks, consume resources, and offer nothing in return but your haunted silence." The cruelty of the words made Kara's breath catch. Everyone knew that Marcus's mate had died defending the pack's southern border, that he had arrived too late to save her, that he had carried her broken body back through a storm while enemy wolves howled in the distance. Everyone knew that something in him had broken that night, that the warrior who had once been known for his quick laugh and fierce loyalty had retreated into a silence so profound that most pack members had forgotten the sound of his voice. To use that tragedy as a weapon now felt like a violation of something sacred. "So, here is my decree," Dante announced, spreading his arms wide as if delivering a generous gift. "Kneel before me now and acknowledge that your time has passed. Swear an oath that you will leave the pack territories within the week and never return. Do this, and I will grant you enough silver to start whatever pathetic life you can manage in the human world. Refuse, and I will strip you of your rank and your rights through ritual combat, and you will leave with nothing but the shame you carry." The other veterans erupted into protests, their voices overlapping in anger and disbelief. But Marcus remained silent. He took a single step forward, and somehow that small movement commanded more attention than all the shouting. The protest died away. Dante's confident smirk faltered just slightly as Marcus moved toward him with the economical grace of a predator who had survived countless battles not through brute force, alone, but through precision and patience. "You accept the challenge, then?" Dante asked, and Kara heard the thread of uncertainty beneath his bravado. "Good. We will settle this now before the full pack. Let everyone see what happens to those who outlive their usefulness." Marcus stopped 3 paces away from the young alpha. For a long moment, he simply looked at Dante, his expression unreadable. Then, for the first time in longer than most pack members could remember, Marcus spoke. His voice was rough from disuse, deep and resonant, carrying across the courtyard like distant thunder. "I accept your challenge, pup. But know this. You have mistaken my silence for weakness. You have mistaken grief for inability. You are about to learn the difference between being born into power and earning it through blood and sacrifice." The transformation began before Dante could respond. Kara had witnessed hundreds of shifts in her life. She had seen warriors transform in the heat of battle, had seen the fluid grace of wolves changing form during hunts, had even seen her father's final desperate shift before his death. But she had never seen anything like this. The air itself seemed to compress, to thicken with a power so ancient and overwhelming that it pressed against her chest and made it hard to breathe. The temperature dropped so suddenly that her breath misted in front of her face. The stone beneath Marcus's feet cracked, actual fissures spreading outward in a spiderweb pattern. And then he shifted. There was no other word for what happened. It was not a transformation in the traditional sense. It was as if reality itself bent around him, as if the world recognized something primal and absolute and made space for it. His human form dissolved into silver light, and from that light emerged a wolf so massive, so impossibly powerful, that several of the younger pack members actually stumbled backward in fear. Marcus's wolf stood easily twice the size of any normal shifted form Kara had ever seen. His fur was the color of moonlight on steel, silver and gray and white flowing together in patterns that seemed to shift with each breath. His eyes, still that same dark shade but now glowing with an inner light, fixed on Dante with an intelligence and intensity that made it clear this was no mindless beast. This was a warrior who had fought in the old wars, who had survived when countless others had fallen, who had been holding back a lifetime of power out of respect for a pack that no longer respected him. The ground trembled, actually trembled. Hairline cracks spread across the courtyard stones. The torches guttered and several went out entirely. And Dante, the young alpha who moments ago had been so confident in his superiority, stood frozen as his own wolf form suddenly seemed small and inadequate in comparison. But it was not the sight of Marcus's true form that made Kara drop the tray she was holding, the crash of breaking pottery loud in the stunned silence. It was not the gasps of shock and fear rippling through the crowd, or the way Vincent and the other young enforcers suddenly looked uncertain about their loyalties. It was the sensation that exploded through her chest at the exact moment of Marcus's transformation. Her wolf, the presence that had been dormant and silent for her entire 22 years of life, suddenly surged awake with such force that Kara cried out and collapsed to her knees. Pain and power flooded through her veins. Her vision blurred and then sharpened, colors becoming more vivid, sounds amplifying until she could hear individual heartbeats in the crowd. Her skin felt too tight, her bones aching with the need to shift, to transform into a form she had never been able to access. And through it all, beneath the pain and confusion and overwhelming sensory input, was a pull, a connection, a golden thread that seemed to tie her very soul to the massive silver wolf standing in the center of the courtyard. The mate bond. Impossible, unthinkable, and absolutely, undeniably real. If you are enjoying this story, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. Kara barely registered the duel that followed. She was too consumed by the riot of sensations coursing through her body, too overwhelmed by the awakening happening inside her. Through her swimming vision, she saw Marcus's wolf move with devastating efficiency, saw him dodge Dante's desperate attacks with almost casual grace, saw him pin the younger alpha to the ground within moments, his massive jaws closing around Dante's throat in a hold that could end the fight with a single bite. The message was clear. This was not a battle between equals. This was a lesson being taught. Marcus held Dante there, the young alpha whimpering and submissive beneath him, for 10 long seconds. Then he released him and stepped back, his massive head turning to survey the gathered pack. His eyes found Kara where she knelt among the broken pottery, and something flickered in those glowing depths. Recognition, surprise, and something that might have been resignation. He shifted back to his human form in a cascade of silver light, standing naked and unmarked in the center of the cracked courtyard. Someone quickly brought him a cloak, which he wrapped around himself as he looked down at Dante, who was slowly pulling himself up. His pride shattered, even if his body was intact. "I will leave your pack, Alpha," Marcus said, his voice carrying despite its roughness. "Not because you ordered it, but because I no longer recognize what this place has become. But I will not leave in shame. I leave knowing that I served with honor when honor still meant something here." He turned and walked toward the pack house, the crowd parting before him like water. Kara tried to stand, tried to follow, but her legs would not cooperate. The awakening of her wolf had left her shaking and weak, her body struggling to adjust to the presence that now paced restlessly inside her mind. She felt him. Through the bond that had just snapped into place, she could feel Marcus's emotions. Grief, old and deep as an ocean. Anger, carefully controlled but burning beneath the surface. And beneath it all, a bone-deep exhaustion, as if he had been carrying an impossible weight for so long that he no longer remembered what it felt like to stand upright. Pathetic. The word was spat at her, and Kara looked up, to see Dante standing over her, his face bruised, and his eyes burning with humiliation and rage. Of course, the daughter of a traitor would collapse at the sight of real power. "Get out of my sight before I decide that I am done tolerating your presence as well." Kara gathered the broken pieces of pottery with trembling hands, forcing herself to her feet despite the way her legs shook. She had survived in this pack by being invisible, by never giving anyone a reason to notice her. But as she hurried toward the servants' entrance, she could feel eyes following her, could hear the whispers starting. Someone had noticed her reaction. Someone had seen the way Marcus's eyes had found hers. In a pack like this, where secrets were currency and weakness was exploited, that kind of attention could be dangerous. The servants' quarters were dark and cramped, a series of small rooms built into the oldest section of the pack house. Kara shared her space with 3 other Omegas, but tonight she was grateful to find it empty. She collapsed onto her narrow bed, her whole body aching as her wolf continued to wake, continued to press against the barriers that had kept it dormant for so long. She had always known she was different. While other children shifted for the first time in their early teens, Kara had remained stubbornly human. The pack healers had examined her, declared her wolf too weak to emerge, and she had been quietly relegated to the servant class. It had been a relief in some ways. Servants were beneath notice, and being beneath notice meant being safe from the casual cruelties that those with power inflicted on those without it. But now, with her wolf finally stirring, with the mate bond blazing in her chest like a second heartbeat, everything had changed, and she had no idea what to do about it. A soft knock on the door made her freeze. "Kara?" The voice was female, familiar. Sage, one of the older Omegas who worked in the packhouse kitchens. Kara sat up, quickly wiping at her eyes, trying to compose herself. "Yes." Sage entered, her round face creased with concern. She was in her 50s, had been with the Moonstone Pack her entire life, and had a reputation for being both kind and shrewd. She sat on the edge of Kara's bed without waiting for an invitation, her sharp eyes taking in Kara's trembling hands and pale face. "I saw what happened to you out there," Sage said quietly. During Marcus's shift, I saw your reaction. Kara's throat tightened. I do not know what you mean. Child, I am old enough to recognize a mate bond snapping into place. Sage's voice was gentle but firm. I saw the same thing happen to my sister 40 years ago. The way you collapsed, the way your scent changed. You felt it, did you not? The connection to Marcus. The denial died on Kara's lips. What was the point of lying to someone who clearly already knew the truth? It is impossible, she whispered. I do not even have a wolf. I am nobody. He is the silent sentinel. He loved his mate. Everyone knows he will never bond again. What everyone knows and what is true are not always the same thing, Sage said. She reached out and took Kara's hand, her grip warm and steady. The moon goddess works in mysterious ways, and mate bonds do not follow the rules we think they should. But Kara, you need to understand something. Marcus is planning to leave at dawn. I heard him speaking with Elder Thomas. He will not challenge Dante's decree, will not cause division in the pack, even though half the warriors would follow him if he asked. He is going to walk away from the only home he has known for 60 years. 60 years, Kara's voice cracked. She had known Marcus was older, but she had not realized just how vast the gap between them was. She was 22. He was old enough to be her grandfather. The thought should have been disturbing, but through the bond, age felt irrelevant. What she felt from him was not the feebleness of advanced years, but the deep strength of a wolf in his prime, a warrior whose power had only grown with time. He fought in the Northern Wars, Sage continued. Before you were born, before your parents were born. He was already a legend when I was a young girl. They say he saved the Alpha's life a dozen times, that he killed an enemy Alpha in single combat when he was barely 30. And when he found his mate, Lyanna, everyone said they had never seen a bond so strong. Her death nearly destroyed him. For years, we thought he would follow her into the void. That he chose to stay, to keep serving the pack even with half his soul missing. That took a kind of strength most of us cannot fathom. Then why would the moon goddess bind him to me? Kara asked, and she could not keep the bitterness from her voice. I am weak. I have no rank, no power, no family to speak of. My father died in disgrace. I have spent my entire life trying not to be seen. What could I possibly offer to someone like him? Sage was quiet for a long moment, her eyes distant. Maybe that is exactly why, she finally said. Maybe the moon goddess knew that Marcus has spent 20 years serving others, putting the pack's needs above his own, carrying his grief in silence because he thought that was what strength required. Maybe she decided it was time for him to have something just for himself, someone who would need him not as a weapon or a shield, but as a partner, a mate. He does not want a mate, Kara said, and through the bond she could feel the truth of it. The wall he had built around his heart, the determination to never let anyone close enough to cause that kind of pain again. He has already decided to leave. You said so yourself. He does not even know what I felt. He does not know the bond snapped for me. Are you going to let him walk away without telling him? Sage asked. Are you going to spend the rest of your life wondering what might have happened if you had been brave enough to speak up? The question hung in the air between them. Kara thought about her father, about the way shame had eaten at him until there was nothing left but desperation and poor choices. She thought about all the times she had made herself small, had swallowed her words, had accepted scraps and called it survival. And she thought about the feeling of her wolf finally waking up. The sense of rightness that had flooded through her when Marcus's power had filled the courtyard. The way her soul had recognized his even when her mind could not make sense of it. I am afraid, she admitted. What if he rejects the bond? What if he sees me as a burden, another weak thing that Dante was right to want to discard? Then at least you will know, Sage said. At least you will have tried. Marcus is leaving at dawn. You have until then to decide whether your fear is stronger than your hope. After Sage left, Kara lay in the darkness and felt her wolf pacing inside her. Mind. It was disorienting, having this new presence after a lifetime of silence. Her wolf was frustrated, angry even, at the years spent locked away. But beneath the anger was something else. Determination. A fierce certainty that Marcus was theirs, that the bond was real and right, and that they needed to fight for it. As the night deepened and the pack house grew quiet, Kara made her decision. She would find Marcus. She would tell him the truth. And whatever happened after that, at least she would know she had been brave enough to try. The barracks where the warriors lived were on the far side of the compound, a long, low building that had been expanded over the years as the pack had grown. Kara had rarely ventured there. Servants had no business in the warriors' domain. But tonight, with the bond pulling her forward like a compass pointing north, she moved through the shadows with a confidence she had never felt before. She found Marcus in his room, packing his few belongings into a worn leather satchel. The door was open, and he looked up as she approached, his dark eyes widening slightly in surprise. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Kara stood in the doorway, her heart hammering so hard she was certain he could hear it. Up close, the bond was almost overwhelming. She could feel his emotions more clearly now. The grief that was always present, yes, but also curiosity, wariness, and something that might have been longing, quickly suppressed. "You should not be here," Marcus said finally, his rough voice gentler than his words. "If anyone sees you, there will be talk." "There is already talk," Kara replied, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "And I do not care. I need to speak with you before you leave." "There is nothing to say." Marcus turned back to his packing, but Kara could see the tension in his shoulders. "Dante has made his decision clear. This is no longer my home. You felt it too." The words came out in a rush, and Kara saw Marcus's hand still on the shirt he was folding. "When you shifted, you felt the bond. I know you did." The silence stretched so long that Kara thought he might simply refuse to acknowledge what she had said. But then Marcus let out a long, slow breath and turned to face her. In the dim light from the single lantern, the scars on his face seemed deeper, the silver in his hair more pronounced. He looked tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. "I felt it," he admitted. "The moment my wolf emerged, I felt it snap into place. I looked across that courtyard, and I felt your soul calling to mine." He paused, his jaw tightening. "And then I felt your wolf wake. After 22 years of silence, your wolf answered mine. Do you have any idea what that means? The power it would take to trigger such an awakening?" "I know what it means," Kara said, stepping into the room. "It means we are mates. It means the moon goddess has bound us together. It means that you do not have to leave alone." "No." The word was harsh, final. Marcus moved toward her, and she could see the conflict raging in his eyes. "You are young, Kara. You have your whole life ahead of you. I am 64 years old. I am broken in ways you cannot understand. I have already lost one mate, and it nearly killed me. I will not do that to you. I will not bind you to someone who has one foot in the grave and the other in the past. You do not get to make that choice for me," Kara said, and she felt her wolf surge forward, lending her courage. "The moon goddess made this bond, not you, not me. And I am not asking you to forget Liana, or to pretend that your past did not happen. I am asking you to consider that maybe, just maybe, you deserve a second chance at happiness. That we both do." "Happiness?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Child, I have not been happy in 20 years. I have been a weapon, a ghost, a convenient tool for a pack that was content to use me and then discard me. What could I possibly offer you beyond more pain and disappointment? You could offer me a choice, Kara said. She closed the distance between them, her hand reaching out to touch his arm. The contact sent a jolt through them both, the bond flaring bright and hot. You could offer me the chance to be more than a servant, more than the daughter of a disgraced warrior. You could see me as your equal, your partner, even when the rest of the pack sees me as nothing. Marcus looked down, at her hand on his arm, and Kara saw something shift in his expression, the walls he had built so carefully beginning to crack. I have always seen you, he said quietly. For years, I have watched you move through this pack house, making yourself invisible, accepting insults and indignities with your head held high. I have seen your kindness, the way you help others even when you have so little for yourself. I have seen your strength, even if you do not recognize it in yourself. Then see this, too, Kara said, her voice breaking. See that I am terrified, that I have no idea what I am doing, that the thought of you walking away makes me feel like something vital is being torn out of my chest. But also see that I am choosing this, choosing you, choosing us, even knowing how hard it might be. For a long moment, Marcus simply looked at her. Then, slowly, carefully, he raised his hand and cupped her face, his calloused thumb brushing away a tear she had not realized had fallen. If I accept this bond, he said, his voice rough with emotion. If I claim you as my mate, there is no going back. The pack will not accept it. Dante will see it as a challenge. We will have to leave, to find our own way in a world that is not always kind to wolves without a pack. I know, Kara whispered, and I am still choosing you. The kiss, when it came, was gentle and fierce all at once. Marcus pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her as if she were something precious and fragile. Through the bond, Kara felt his walls crumble, felt the flood of emotion he had been holding back. Love and grief and hope and fear all tangled together. Her wolf sang with joy, recognizing her mate, celebrating the completion of something that had been missing her entire life. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. We leave at dawn, he said. Together. And Kara, I need you to understand something. I cannot promise you an easy life. I cannot promise that my grief will not sometimes overwhelm me. I cannot erase the age between us or the scars I carry. But I can promise that I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the gift the moon goddess has given me. I will protect you, cherish you, and stand beside you no matter what comes. That is all I need, Kara said. And in that moment, she meant it with every fiber of her being. What do you think will happen next? Leave your predictions in the comments below. The hours before, dawn passed in a blur of quiet preparation. Marcus helped Kara gather her few belongings, and together they made plans for their departure. They would head east, toward the neutral territories where lone wolves and small packs coexisted without the rigid hierarchies of the larger communities. Marcus knew people there, wolves who had fought beside him in the old wars, and who would welcome them. But as the first hints of light began to touch the horizon, Kara felt a sudden surge of alarm through. The bond. Marcus felt it too. He moved to the window, his body tense, and cursed softly. What is it? Kara asked, joining him. What she saw made her blood run cold. Dante stood in the courtyard below, surrounded by Vincent and at least 20 young warriors. They were armed, and their eyes were fixed on the barracks. He is not going to let you leave peacefully, Kara whispered. He cannot afford to, Marcus replied grimly. I humiliated him in front of the entire pack. If he lets me walk away, without consequence, it undermines whatever authority he has left. He has to make an example of me. Then we fight, Kara said, and her wolf rose to the surface, eager and angry. Together. Marcus turned to her, his expression torn between pride and fear. Kara, you have only just awakened your wolf. You have never trained for combat. I cannot ask you to fight beside me. You are not asking, Kara said. I am offering. And Marcus, I may be untrained, but I am not weak. Not anymore. Awakened something in me yesterday. Let me show you what I can do. Before Marcus could respond, Dante's voice rang out across the courtyard. Marcus, the silent sentinel, come out and face judgment for your crimes against this pack. You attacked your alpha. You sowed discord and division. You have forfeited your right to a peaceful departure. Marcus moved toward the door, but Kara caught his arm. Wait. There is something I need to try. She closed her eyes, reaching for the power she had felt, stirring inside her since her wolf had awakened. The bond with Marcus thrummed between them, and she pulled on it, drawing on his strength, his centuries of experience, his absolute certainty in who and what he was. Her wolf surged forward, and for the first time in her life, Kara shifted. The transformation was not smooth. It was raw and painful and overwhelming. Her bones reshaped themselves. Her muscles tore and reformed. Her senses exploded into a riot of scents and sounds and textures. But when it was over, when she stood on 4 legs instead of 2, she felt powerful in a way she had never imagined possible. Her wolf was smaller than Marcus's massive form, but she was fast and sleek, her fur a deep auburn that seemed to glow in the pre-dawn light. Through the bond, she felt Marcus's shock and pride and fear all tangled together. He shifted beside her, his silver wolf dwarfing hers, but moving to stand shoulder to shoulder with her. Together, they walked out to face the waiting pack. The reaction was immediate. Gasps of shock rippled through the gathered wolves. Someone who had never shifted before, who had been labeled defective and weak, now stood in her wolf form beside the most powerful warrior the pack had ever known. Kara could smell their fear, their confusion, their anger. Impossible, Dante said, but his voice shook. You are not supposed to be able to shift. The healers said. The healers were wrong, Kara said, and the fact that she could speak in her wolf form, could project her thoughts with a clarity that shocked even her, sent another wave of surprise through the crowd. Or perhaps they only saw what they expected to see. A weak Omega, the daughter of a disgraced warrior, not worth their time or attention. But I am more than what you decided I should be. I am Marcus's mate, chosen by the moon goddess herself. And I will not stand aside while you try to punish him for having the strength you lack. Dante's face flushed with rage. You dare speak to me that way? I am your alpha. You are a child playing at leadership, Marcus said, his mental voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. You inherited a title you did not earn, and you are destroying a pack your father spent his life building. But I will not let you destroy my mate. Stand aside, Dante. Let us leave in peace, or face the consequences of pushing this further. Kill them, Dante snarled at Vincent and the others. Kill them both and let the pack see what happens. To traitors. What happened next would be talked about in the Moonstone pack for generations. Vincent lunged forward, his wolf form massive and brutal, aiming for Kara's throat. But Marcus intercepted him with devastating speed, his jaws closing around Vincent's foreleg and snapping it with a sickening crunch. The beta's howl of pain was cut short as Marcus flung him aside and turned to face the next attacker. Kara moved on instinct, her newly awakened wolf guiding her through blocks and dodges. She had never been taught. When a young warrior tried to flank Marcus, she was there, her smaller size allowing her to slip under his guard and rake her claws across his shoulder, sending him stumbling back. But they were outnumbered. For every wolf they drove back, 2 more pressed forward. Kara felt claws tear into her flank, felt teeth scrape against her ribs. Through the bond, she felt Marcus's desperation, his fear not for himself, but for her. He was trying to shield her, to take the brunt. of the attacks. But there were too many. Then, just as Kara thought they might actually be overwhelmed, something extraordinary happened. Her wolf, pushed to its limits, reached for the bond with Marcus and pulled. Not just emotional support, but actual power. The connection between them flared brilliant gold, and suddenly Kara felt Marcus's strength flowing into her, felt his speed, his battle instincts, his absolute certainty. At the same time, Marcus felt something from her. A fierce joy, a refusal to give up, a creativity in combat that came from never having been trained to fight in conventional ways. Together, they became something more than the sum of their parts. Kara's speed increased until she was a blur of auburn fur. Marcus's already formidable strength seemed to double. They moved in perfect synchronization, anticipating each other's actions, covering each other's weaknesses, turning their attackers' numbers against them. If you want to see how this story ends, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Within minutes, half of Dante's warriors were down, nursing broken bones or deep gashes. The others had backed away, their confidence shattered. And through it all, the pack members who had not joined the fight watched with wide eyes as they witnessed something that had not been seen in living memory. A true mate bond in perfect harmony. Two souls fighting as one. Dante stood alone now, his supporters defeated or fled. He shifted back to his human form, his face pale and desperate. "This is not over," he said. "I am still alpha of this pack. I still have authority." "No," a voice said from the crowd. Elder Thomas stepped forward, his ancient face lined with sorrow. "You have lost any claim to authority, Dante. You attacked wolves under the protection of the mate bond. You ignored the wisdom of your elders. You put your pride above the good of the pack. As the eldest member of this pack and keeper of our laws, I declare your leadership forfeit." A murmur of agreement rippled through the gathered wolves. Other elders stepped forward, and several of the veteran warriors who had been targeted the day before. Even some of the younger wolves, their eyes opened by what they had witnessed, nodded their support. Dante looked around wildly, seeing his power crumbling. "You cannot do this, my father. Your father would be ashamed," Thomas said quietly. He knew that true strength comes not from domination, but from service. He understood that a pack is only as strong as its weakest member, and that honor matters more than power. You have forgotten these lessons, if you ever learned them at all. Dante's shoulders slumped. For a moment, he looked like what he truly was. A young man thrust into a role he was not ready for, lashing out in fear and insecurity. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice small. "Now, you step down," Thomas said. "We will call for a proper alpha challenge, one conducted according to our laws and traditions. And you will have time to learn what leadership truly means, if you are willing to do the work." Marcus and Kara shifted back to their human forms. Someone quickly brought them cloaks, and they stood together, Marcus's arm around Kara's waist, supporting her as the adrenaline of the fight began to fade and the pain of her injuries made itself known. "We are still leaving," Marcus said to Thomas. "This pack needs time to heal, and our presence will only complicate things. But we are not leaving in shame or exile. We are leaving to build our own life, on our own terms." "I understand," Thomas said. He approached them, his old eyes warm. "Before you go, there is something you should know. Something about Kara's bloodline." Kara tensed. "My father was a traitor. There is nothing to know." "Your father was desperate and made a terrible choice," Thomas corrected gently. "But he was not the first of your line to serve this pack. Your grandmother was one of our most gifted healers, and her mother before her carried a gift that has not been seen in generations. The ability to share strength through the mate bond, to forge connections that make both partners stronger. We call it the Luna's blessing. It is a mark of the moon goddess's favor." Kara stared at him, her mind reeling. But I was told I was defective, that my wolf was too weak to emerge. Your wolf was not weak, Thomas said. It was waiting for the one bond strong enough to wake it. The moon goddess knew what she was doing when she bound you to Marcus. She knew you would need each other, that your strengths would complement each other perfectly. Marcus's arm tightened around Kara, and through the bond she felt his wonder and his gratitude. "Where will you go?" Thomas asked. "East," Marcus said. "To the Wildwood territories. I have friends there who will welcome us, and in time, perhaps we will build something new. A place where wolves like us, who do not fit the traditional molds, can find belonging." "Then go with our blessing," Thomas said. He turned to address the gathered pack. "Let it be known that Marcus, the silent sentinel, and Kara, bearer of the Luna's blessing, leave this pack with honor. They are always welcome to return, and any who speak against them speak against the moon goddess herself." As the sun finally broke over the horizon, Marcus and Kara walked through the gates of the Moonstone Pack for the last time. They carried little in the way of physical possessions, but they carried something far more valuable: each other. The future was uncertain. They did not know what challenges they would face in the Wildwood territories, or whether they would truly find the acceptance and peace they sought. But as they walked into the rising sun, their hands clasped and their bond shining bright and strong between them, Kara realized something profound. For the first time in her life, she was not making herself small. She was not hiding or apologizing for existing. She was walking beside her mate, her equal, toward a future they would build together. And that was worth any risk, any hardship, any sacrifice. Marcus glanced down at her, and she saw the ghost of a smile on his scarred face. "No regrets?" he asked. "Not one," Kara said. And through the bond, she felt his love wrap around her like a warm embrace, steady and true and absolutely unshakable. The journey to the Wildwood territories took 3 days. They traveled through dense forests and across rushing streams, sleeping under the stars and hunting together in their wolf forms. Each night, as they lay beside a campfire, Marcus told Kara stories of his youth, of battles fought and friends lost, of the world as it had been before she was born. And Kara listened, not with the reverence of a young wolf hearing legends, but with the understanding of a mate learning her partner's history. She told him her own stories, too. The small rebellions of her childhood, the dreams she had, nurtured in secret, the plans she had made for a future that had seemed impossible until now. And Marcus listened with the same attention and respect, making her feel heard in a way she never had before. On the 3rd evening, they reached the edge of the Wildwood territories. A patrol met them there, 3 wolves in their prime who regarded Marcus with a mix of surprise and delight. Marcus, the largest of them, a dark-furred wolf with amber eyes, shifted to his human form and embraced Marcus warmly. "By the moon, we heard rumors you had died. It has been, 15 years since you last visited?" "Too long, Rowan," Marcus agreed. "And I come now not as a visitor, but seeking sanctuary. This is Kara, my mate. We have left the Moonstone Pack and need a place to rebuild our lives." Rowan's eyes widened as he looked at Kara, and she saw the exact moment he sensed the bond between them, felt the power of it. "Your mate," he breathed. "After Leanna, we never thought. Marcus, this is a gift. And any mate of yours is family to us. Welcome, Kara. Welcome to the Wildwood." The settlement that Rowan led them to was unlike anything Kara had experienced in the Moonstone Pack. Instead of a rigid hierarchy and formal pack house, the Wildwood wolves lived in a collection of cabins scattered through the forest, each dwelling built to suit its inhabitants. Wolves came and went freely, some staying for years, others for only seasons. There were no servants, no Omega class forced into Subservience. Everyone contributed according to their abilities and shared in the community's prosperity. We built this place for wolves who did not fit elsewhere, Rowan explained, as he showed them to a small cabin on the edge of the settlement. Lone wolves, outcasts, those whose gifts made them targets in traditional packs. Here, difference is celebrated, not punished. The cabin was simple but well built, with a large main room featuring a stone fireplace, a smaller sleeping chamber, and a porch that looked out over a valley where deer grazed in the fading light. "It is perfect," Kara said, and she meant it. This was not a palace or a grand estate, but it was theirs, a place where they could build their life without judgment or interference. That night, they christened their new home properly. Marcus built a fire while Kara unpacked their few belongings, and then they sat together on the porch, watching the stars emerge one by one in the darkening sky. "I never thought I would feel this again," Marcus said quietly. His arm was around Kara's shoulders, and she leaned into his warmth. This sense of possibility, of hope. After Leanna died, I convinced myself that the best I could hope for was to serve with honor and die without regret. I never imagined the moon goddess would give me a second chance at happiness. "Do you still miss her?" Kara asked. She needed to know, needed to understand that she was not trying to erase or replace what Marcus had lost. Marcus was. Quiet for a long moment. "Every day," he finally said. "Leanna was my first love, my first mate. What we had was beautiful and real, and her loss left a scar that will never fully heal. But Kara, what I feel for you is not less because I loved her first. If anything, having loved and lost makes me cherish what we have even more. I know how rare this is. I know how easily it can be taken away. And I will spend every day we have together making sure you know how precious you are to me." Kara felt tears prick her eyes, but they were good tears. Tears of relief and gratitude and love so overwhelming she could barely contain it. "I love you," she said. Simple words, but they carried the weight of everything she felt. "I know I am young, and I know I have so much to learn, but I love you, Marcus, and I am so grateful that the moon goddess brought us together." "I love you too," Marcus said. He turned her face toward his and kissed her, slow and deep. "My fierce little mate, my unexpected blessing. You have given me a reason to live again, not just exist, and I will spend the rest of my days trying to give you the life you deserve." The weeks that followed were the happiest of Kara's life. She and Marcus settled into a rhythm, learning each other's habits and preferences, building a partnership that went beyond the mate bond. Marcus trained her in combat, teaching her to harness the strength of her newly awakened wolf. Kara discovered she had a natural talent for strategy, for reading her opponents and exploiting their weaknesses. Together they became a formidable team, and soon the other wildwood wolves sought them out for advice and assistance. Kara also discovered that the Luna's blessing Elder Thomas had spoken of was more than just a bond with Marcus. She had the ability to sense the emotional states of other wolves, to offer comfort and support in ways that eased tensions and resolved conflicts. The wildwood community began to see her not just as Marcus's mate, but as a leader in her own right, someone whose wisdom and compassion made the settlement stronger. But their peace was not destined to last undisturbed. 3 months after their arrival, a messenger came from the Moonstone Pack. The young wolf, barely out of adolescence, looked exhausted and frightened as Rowan brought him to Marcus and Kara's cabin. "Elder Thomas sent me," the messenger said, his words tumbling out in a rush. "The pack is in trouble. After Dante stepped down, there was a proper alpha challenge, but the wolf who won, a warrior named Garrick, he is even worse than Dante. He is consolidating power, exiling anyone who questions him, and he is forming alliances with the rogue packs on our western border. There are rumors he plans to expand Moonstone's territory through conquest, and that he is willing to sacrifice as many wolves as necessary to build his own empire. Kara and Marcus exchanged a glance. Through the bond, she felt his conflict. The Satbarmiye. Moonstone Pack had cast him out, had treated him with disrespect and cruelty. He owed them nothing. But he had served that pack for 40 years. He had bled for it, lost his first mate protecting it. And Kara could feel that some part of him would always be tied to the place that had been his home for so long. "What does Thomas want from us?" Marcus asked. "He asks that you return," the messenger said. "Not to lead the pack yourself, but to challenge Garrick. To restore honor to the Moonstone. Pack before Garrick destroys everything your generation built." "No," Kara said before Marcus could respond. "We left that place behind. We built a new life here. Why should we risk everything we have for a pack that showed us nothing but contempt?" "Because it is the right thing to do," Marcus said quietly. He took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "Because there are innocent wolves in that pack who do not deserve to suffer under a tyrant. Children, elders, wolves who have no power to defend themselves. I cannot turn my back on them, Kara. Not when I have the strength to help." Kara wanted to argue. She wanted to point out that they owed the Moonstone Pack nothing, that returning could mean walking into a trap, that they finally had peace and should not throw it away. But looking into Marcus's eyes, seeing the resolve there, she understood. This was who he was, a protector. A warrior who could not ignore suffering when he had the power to stop it. And if she truly loved him, she had to accept all of him, including this unyielding sense of honor. "Then we go together," she said, "but on our terms. We are not returning as supplicants begging for acceptance. We are returning as equals, as mates, with the full support of the Wildwood community behind us. If Garrick wants a fight, he will get one he will never forget." The journey back to the Moonstone Pack took a week. This time, they did not travel alone. Rowan insisted on accompanying them, along with 10 of the Wildwood's strongest warriors. "You stood with us when we needed sanctuary," Rowan said. "Now we stand with you. That is what pack means, Marcus. Not blood or territory, but loyalty and choice." When they arrived at the Moonstone Pack borders, they were met not with a welcome, but with hostility. Garrick had posted guards at every entry point, and the wolves who challenged them were young and aggressive, their eyes hard with the kind of cruelty that came from serving a brutal alpha. "State your business," the lead guard snarled. "I am Marcus, formerly of the Moonstone Pack," Marcus said, his voice calm but carrying an edge of command that made the young wolves flinch. "I have come to challenge your alpha for the right to lead this pack." "Garrick does not accept challenges from exiles," the guard said, but his confidence was wavering. He could sense Marcus's power, could feel the absolute certainty radiating from the old warrior. "He does not get a choice," Kara said, stepping forward. Her wolf rose to the surface, and she let her power show, let them feel the Luna's blessing that made her far more than the weak Omega they remembered. By pack law, any wolf can issue a formal challenge, and if your alpha is too cowardly to accept, then perhaps he should step aside for someone who is worthy of the title. The guards did not attack, but they did not move aside either. The standoff lasted for tense minutes, until finally a new voice called out, "Let them through." Elder Thomas appeared, looking older and more tired than Kara remembered, but his eyes were sharp, and his relief at seeing Marcus was palpable. "The Pack Council has the right to grant entry for formal challenges, and I invoke that right now." Reluctantly, the guards stepped aside. As Marcus and Kara, flanked by their Wildwood allies, walked toward the pack house, Kara saw the changes that Garrick's rule had brought. The courtyards were empty, the windows dark. The scent of fear hung heavy in the air. Wolves watched from the shadows, their faces gaunt and hopeless. "He has broken them," Marcus said quietly, and Kara felt his anger building through the bond. In 3 months, he has taken a proud pack and turned it into a prison. Garrick awaited them in the great hall, seated in the Alpha's chair like a king on a throne. He was a massive wolf in his human form, all bulk and brutality, with cold eyes that assessed Marcus like a predator sizing up potential prey. The legendary silent, "Sentinel," Garrick said, his voice mocking. "I heard you had run off with your tail between your legs, and now you come crawling back, thinking to reclaim a position you abandoned? How pathetic. I challenge you for leadership of this pack," Marcus said, ignoring the insult. "By the old laws, by the traditions that govern all packs, I demand the right to face you in ritual combat. The victor claims the alpha position. The loser leaves or submits." "And if I refuse?" Garrick asked, though they both knew he could not. To refuse a formal challenge was to forfeit all authority. "Then you prove yourself a coward," Kara said. She had moved to stand beside Marcus, and she let Garrick see the bond between them, let him feel the power they shared. "And the pack will know that you fear a wolf old enough to be your grandfather. How long do you think they will follow you after that?" Garrick's face flushed with rage, but he was trapped, and he knew it. "Fine," he snarled. "We fight at moonrise. And when I kill you, old man, your pretty little mate will learn what happens to those who challenge me." The threat was clear, and it took all of Kara's control not to shift right there and tear out Garrick's throat. But Marcus's hand on her arm steadied her. "Moonrise, then," Marcus agreed. "Prepare yourself, Garrick, because I am going to show you the difference between a bully and a warrior." The hours before moonrise were tense. Elder Thomas gathered the pack council, ensuring that the challenge would be witnessed and judged fairly. The Wildwood Wolves set up a perimeter, making it clear that any attempt at interference would be met with force. And Kara stayed close to Marcus, using the bond to keep him centered and focused. "I am afraid," she admitted as they prepared in the guest quarters Thomas had provided. "Not that you will lose. I have felt your strength, Marcus. I know what you are capable of, but I am afraid of what it will cost you, of what memories this will bring." "Up." Marcus pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her as if she were the only solid thing in a world that was constantly shifting. "I am afraid too," he confessed. "Not of Garrick, but of failing you, of letting my past cloud my judgment. But Kara, I need you to know something. Whatever happens tonight, you have already given me more than I ever thought I would have again. You have given me purpose, love, a reason to believe in tomorrow. And if I fall, you will go on. You will lead. Have the strength for it, even if you do not see it yet." "You are not going to fall," Kara said fiercely. "We are going to win this together, just like we have won everything else." Moonrise came too quickly. The pack gathered in the ceremonial circle, a wide clearing surrounded by ancient stones that had witnessed countless challenges over the centuries. Kara stood with the Wildwood Wolves, her heart hammering as Marcus and Garrick faced each other across the sacred ground. Elder Thomas raised his hands for silence. "By the laws that govern all packs, this challenge is called. Marcus of the Wildwood, formerly of Moonstone, claims the right to face Garrick for leadership of this pack. The combat will continue until one yields, is unable to continue, or dies. The moon goddess bears witness. Let the challenge begin." Both wolves shifted simultaneously. Garrick's wolf was massive, nearly as large as Marcus's, with dark fur and scarred hide that spoke of many battles. He was younger, faster, and fueled by the arrogance of someone who had never faced a truly superior opponent. But Marcus's wolf was something else entirely. Silver and gray and white, ancient power made manifest, moving with the economical grace of a warrior who knew exactly how to use every advantage. They circled each other, and the tension in the air was thick enough to taste. Then Garrick lunged, his jaws snapping for Marcus's throat. Marcus sidestepped with minimal effort, his claws raking across Garrick's ribs as the younger wolf's momentum carried him past. First blood to Marcus. Garrick snarled and turned, more cautious now. He tried again, feinting left before striking right. But Marcus read the move and countered, his massive paw slamming into Garrick's shoulder with enough force to send him staggering. The fight quickly became less a battle between equals and more a masterclass in combat. Every move Garrick made, Marcus had seen 100 times before. Every strategy, every trick, every desperate gambit, Marcus countered with the ease of someone who had spent a lifetime perfecting the art of war. But Garrick was not going down easily. Desperation made him vicious, and he fought with the kind of brutality that came from having nothing to lose. He managed to land several solid hits, his teeth finding purchase in Marcus's shoulder, his claws tearing into Marcus's flank. Through the bond, Kara felt every wound, felt Marcus's pain and his determination. And she did what she had learned to do. She poured her strength into him, using the Luna's blessing to shore up his energy, to keep him moving when exhaustion tried to claim him. She felt the power flowing between them, felt their souls working in perfect harmony, even though she was not in the circle with him. The pack felt it too. Gasps of awe rippled through the crowd as they witnessed the bond in action, saw the way Marcus seemed to gain strength even as the fight wore on. This was no ordinary challenge. This was a demonstration of what true partnership looked like, what the moon goddess intended when she created the mate bond. Garrick realized he was losing. Kara saw the moment panic set in, saw the way his attacks became wilder, less controlled. And then he made a fatal mistake. In his desperation to land a killing blow, he overextended, leaving his throat exposed for just a fraction of a second. Marcus did not hesitate. He struck with the speed of a snake, his jaws closing around Garrick's throat in a hold that could end the fight with a single bite. Garrick froze, his submission instinctive and immediate. For 10 long seconds, Marcus held him there. The message was clear. I could kill you. I have earned that right. But I am choosing mercy. Then he released Garrick and stepped back, shifting to his human form as someone quickly brought him a cloak. Garrick shifted as well, his hand going to his throat where Marcus's teeth had been. His face was pale, his eyes wide with the realization of how close he had come to death. I yield, he said, his voice hoarse. The pack is yours. Elder Thomas stepped forward, his face solemn. By the laws of the challenge, by the witness of the moon goddess, Marcus is declared alpha of the Moonstone Pack. All bonds of loyalty to Garrick are dissolved. All authority is transferred. So it is witnessed. So it shall be. A cheer rose from the gathered wolves, not the forced enthusiasm of subjects terrified of their leader, but genuine relief and hope. The veterans who had been exiled were the first to approach, kneeling before Marcus in the traditional gesture of fealty. Others followed, and Kara watched as her mate, the warrior who had been cast out and disrespected, was welcomed back as the leader he had always been meant to be. But Marcus raised his hand for silence. I accept the position of alpha, he said, his voice carrying across the clearing. But I do not accept it alone. Kara is my mate, my equal, and she will stand beside me as Luna of this pack. And the first change I make is this. There will be no more servants, no more Omegas forced into subservience. Every member of this pack has value. Every voice deserves to be heard. We will rebuild Moonstone not as a hierarchy of domination, but as a community of equals. Those who cannot accept this are free to leave. Those who embrace it will help me create something better than what we have lost. The pack erupted in cheers, and Kara felt tears streaming down her face as Marcus held out his hand to her. She crossed the circle, ignoring the formal protocols, and threw her arms around him. You did it, she whispered. We did it, Marcus corrected. He held her close, and through the bond she felt his exhaustion, his relief, and his overwhelming love. Together. Always together. The weeks and months that followed were transformative. Marcus and Kara worked tirelessly to restructure the Moonstone Pack, implementing the lessons they had learned in the Wildwood. Former servants were given training and opportunity. Decisions were made by council rather than decree. Resources were shared equitably. It was not easy. Change never was. There were wolves who resented the new order, who preferred the old hierarchies. Garrick left the pack, taking his most loyal followers with him, and there were rumors he was building his own rogue pack in the north. But for every wolf who left, 2 more came seeking the refuge that Moonstone now represented. And slowly, steadily, the pack began to heal. The Wildwood community remained close allies, with Rowan and Marcus maintaining a strong friendship and regular exchange of resources and information. Kara blossomed in her role as Luna, her natural empathy and strategic mind making her beloved by the pack members and respected by visiting alphas. 1 year to the day after Marcus had challenged Garrick, Kara stood on the balcony of the pack house, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. She felt Marcus's presence behind her before his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, his breath warm against her ear. "About how far we have come," Kara said. "A year ago, I was a servant who could not shift. You were a warrior everyone thought was past his prime. And now look at us. We are leading a pack, changing lives, building something that matters. Do you have any regrets?" Marcus asked. "About leaving your quiet life in the Wildwood? About taking on all this responsibility?" Kara turned in his arms, looking up into his scarred, beloved face. "Not one," she said. "Because every challenge, every struggle, every moment of doubt has been worth it. Because I get to face it all with you. Because the moon goddess brought us together and gave us a purpose bigger than ourselves." Marcus smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "I love you, Kara, my fierce Luna, my unexpected blessing. Every day. With you is a gift I never thought I would receive. I love you too," Kara said. She reached up to cup his face, drawing him down for a kiss that was tender and passionate, and filled with the promise of all the years they would share. "My warrior, my mate, my home." As the last light faded from the sky and the moon began to rise, casting silver light across the Moonstone territories, Kara sent up a silent prayer of gratitude to the moon goddess. For second chances, for unexpected love, for the courage to fight for what mattered, and for the bond that had awakened her wolf, transformed her life, and given her a future more beautiful than any dream she had dared to imagine. The Moonstone Pack had been reborn, and at its heart stood 2 souls who had found each other against all odds, who had chosen love over fear, hope over despair, and who would spend the rest of their days proving that the greatest strength came not from domination, but from partnership, compassion, and the unshakable belief that everyone deserved a second chance at happiness. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who loves epic romance. Tell me in the comments, did you see this ending coming,